The meeting room on Nexus Prime stretched wide like a football field. 7 massive chairs sat around a table made of black stone that came from a dead planet. Each chair was different, built for different kinds of alien bodies. The smallest chair was still twice the size of a human chair. Ambassador Lee Jun-ho walked into the room wearing his best blue uniform. His black shoes clicked on the metal floor. Behind him came Dr. Park Mi-jin and Captain Kim Dae-ho. They looked tiny next to the alien delegates who were already sitting down. The Vorthak delegate was huge, like a bear made of rocks. His name was something humans could not say, so they called him Stoneface. He was eating something that looked like metal scraps. When he saw the humans, he made a sound like rocks falling down a hill. The translator box said this meant laughter. The Nexari delegate looked like a giant crystal that someone had carved into the shape of a person. She was clear like glass, but colors moved inside her like oil on water. Her voice sounded like wind, chimes when she spoke. She did not look at the humans at all. The other aliens were just as strange. The Zephyrian looked like a cloud of gas trapped in a glass suit. The collective was many small bug-like creatures that moved together like one person. The elderwood was like a walking tree with glowing flowers for eyes. The deeper looked like a huge fish in a tank of water. Lee Jun-ho had been coming to these meetings for 10 years. Every year, the 7 big alien species decided who got what in the galaxy. They gave out mining rights to asteroid belts full of rare metals. They decided which species could build trade routes through space. They chose who could set up research stations near interesting planets. And every year, humans got the scraps. "We call this meeting to order," said the Nexari in her singing voice. "Today we decide how to split up the Kepler Nebula sector." Lee Jun-ho stood up. "The human colonies would like to request mining rights in the Kepler region. Our people need the rare metals there to build." Stoneface made his rock-falling laugh again. "Humans want to mine? Do you even know which end of a drill to hold?" The other aliens made sounds that the translator said were laughter. Dr. Park Mi-jin's face turned red, but she stayed quiet. Captain Kim Dae-ho's hand moved toward his weapon, but Lee Jun-ho gave him a look that said no. "We have been mining asteroids for 50 years, Lee Jun-ho said in a calm voice. "Our techniques are quite good." "Quite good?" The crystal alien's voice got higher. "Humans, you barely know how to make fire without burning down your own cities. Leave the real work to real civilizations." The tree-like elderwood spoke in a voice like wind through leaves. "Perhaps humans could help with simple farming. Growing food is more suitable for your level." The floating Zephyrian added, "Yes, we need someone to grow vegetables. Very important work." The way he said it made it sound like a joke. Lee Jun-ho felt something hot rise in his chest, but he pushed it down. He had been a diplomat for 30 years. He knew how to control his anger. "We would like to be considered for mining rights," he said again. The collective spoke with 1,000 tiny voices that became one voice. "Humans are too new, too young. You have been in space for what, 100 years? We have been traveling between stars for 10,000 years. Some of us have been here much longer," said the elderwood. "I remember when humans were still hitting each other with sticks." More laughter filled the room. Dr. Park Mi-jin leaned forward. "Ambassador, perhaps we should mention our new farming technology. The quantum fold agriculture system could—" "Quantum fold?" Stoneface spit out a piece of metal. "Humans using quantum technology? What's next? Will they try to build starships?" "They already have starships," said the deeper in a voice like water bubbling. "Very slow ones that barely work." Captain Kim Dae-ho finally spoke. "Our ships work fine. We've never lost a crew to engine failure." "That's because you're too scared to push them hard," said the Zephyrian. "Real ships need real pilots." Lee Jun-ho watched Dr. Park Mi-jin write something on her tablet. She was taking notes, but her hand was shaking a little. These meetings always made her angry. She was one of the smartest people Lee Jun-ho had ever met, but the aliens treated her like a child. "Let's vote," said the Nexari. "All in favor of giving the Kepler Nebula mining rights to the Vorthak Consortium?" 6 hands, claws, and other things went up. Only the human delegation did not vote. Motion passed. The crystal alien sang. Humans will receive mining rights to the asteroid belt Gamma 7. Lee Jun-ho knew that belt. It had been mined out 20 years ago. There was nothing left there but space dust and broken rocks. "Thank you," he said. Because that was what diplomats were supposed to say. Stoneface leaned forward. "Don't look so sad, little human. Maybe in a few hundred years you'll be ready for real work." "Yes," agreed the Elderwood. "You must learn to crawl before you can walk, and humans are still crawling." The meeting went on for 3 more hours. The aliens divided up trade routes, research stations, and exploration rights. Humans got nothing useful. They got the jobs nobody else wanted, like delivering supplies to empty space stations and checking on old satellites. When the meeting finally ended, the aliens left quickly. They had important things to do, important places to be. Lee Jun-ho, Dr. Park Mi-jin, and Captain Kim Dae-ho walked slowly back to their small ship. 10 years, said Dr. Park Mi-jin when they were alone. 10 years of this. I know, said Lee Jun-ho. They treat us like pets, said Captain Kim Dae-ho. Smart pets, maybe, but still pets. I know, said Lee Jun-ho again. Dr. Park Mi-jin looked at her notes. Did you notice something strange? The way they all acted exactly the same, like they planned it? Lee Jun-ho had noticed. For 10 years, the aliens had been rude to humans. But today felt different. Today felt like they were putting on a show. Maybe, he said. Their ship was small and old compared to the alien vessels, but it worked, and it got them home. As they flew away from Nexus Prime, Lee Jun-ho looked back at the huge station. Somewhere in there, 7 alien species were probably laughing about the stupid humans who thought they deserved respect. Lee Jun-ho was tired of being laughed at, but he was a diplomat and diplomats were patient. They waited for the right moment. He just hoped that moment would come soon. 3 months had passed since the last meeting. Lee Jun-ho stood in front of the same black table, but this time he was not alone. Dr. Park Mi-jin was there, as always. Captain Kim Dae-ho stood behind them, but today they had brought help. Engineer Cho Hyun-woo appeared as a blue ghost above the table. His hologram flickered a little because the signal had to travel from Mars. Admiral Seo Ji-hai sat in the chair next to Lee Jun-ho. She was the highest-ranking military officer that humans had, and she scared most people just by looking at them. The aliens were all there too. Stoneface was eating metal again. The crystal Nexari was changing colors slowly, like a rainbow in slow motion. The other 5 aliens looked bored, like they had better things to do. Today we present something new, said Lee Jun-ho. He pressed a button on his tablet. The air above the table filled with numbers and pictures. It showed farms on different planets, growing food faster than anyone had ever seen before. It showed hungry worlds getting enough food to feed everyone. Quantumfold. Agriculture, said Dr. Park Mi-jin. We can grow enough food to feed an entire sector in the space of a small moon. The pictures were amazing. Plants growing in seconds instead of months. Fruits and vegetables bigger and better than anything. That grew naturally. Food that could grow anywhere, even in space. Engineer Cho Hyun-woo's ghost voice spoke from Mars. The energy cost is almost nothing. The space needed is tiny. 1 human colony ship could feed 100 planets. Stoneface was not eating anymore. He was staring at the pictures. The Nexari had stopped changing colors. Even the bored aliens were paying attention. Impressive, said the Elderwood in his wind voice. For humans. Very clever, agreed the Zephyrian. You have learned to grow food very fast, like good farmers should. Lee Jun-ho felt that hot feeling in his chest again. They were still treating humans like farmers, not like scientists who had just solved hunger for the entire galaxy. Dr. Park Mi-jin stepped forward. With this technology, we request equal representation on the Council's Science Directorate. The room went quiet. The Science Directorate was where the smart aliens decided what research to do and how to do it. Humans had never been allowed to join. Then Stoneface started laughing. Not his usual rock-falling laugh, but something bigger and louder. Soon all the aliens were making their different laughing sounds. "Equal representation," said the Nexari, her voice like broken glass. "Humans want to join the Science Directorate?" "Have you invented the wheel yet?" asked Stoneface, wiping tears from his rocky eyes. Admiral HFY's face did not change, but her hands became fists on the table. The crystal alien stood up, becoming even taller. When she spoke, her voice filled the whole room. "Perhaps in another 1,000 years, when your species grows up beyond its violent, chaotic nature, we might consider it." "Yes," said the Elderwood, his flower eyes glowing brighter. "Humans need guardianship, not partnership. You are like children with dangerous toys." The collective's 1,000 voices became one voice. Children should not sit at the adult table. Captain Kim Dae-ho took a step forward, but Admiral HFY held up one hand to stop him. "We have one more matter to discuss," said the Nexari. "The human colonies in the Tau Ceti system." Lee Junho felt his stomach drop. The Tau Ceti colonies were home to 2 million humans. They were some of the most successful human settlements in space. "The Council has voted," continued the crystal alien. "These colonies will be transferred to collective oversight for their own protection." "What?" Dr. Park Mi-jin's voice was sharp. "The bug people will take care of your colonies," explained Stoneface. "Make sure humans don't hurt themselves or others. This is for your own good," said the Deeper in his water voice. "Humans cannot be trusted to govern themselves properly." The room was spinning. Lee Junho felt like someone had hit him in the stomach. They were taking away human colonies. They were giving human people to aliens to control like pets. "Engineer." Cho Hyun-woo's hologram flickered. "This is unacceptable. Those are human citizens." "Not anymore," said the Nexari. "They are protected persons under alien care." Admiral HFY stood up slowly. She was not a tall woman, but when she stood, everyone noticed. "You're taking our people." "We're protecting them," said the Elderwood. "From themselves and from the chaos they create." "The vote was unanimous," added the Zephyrian. All 7 species agreed. Lee Junho looked around the table. 7 alien faces stared back at him. Some were laughing. Some looked bored. None of them looked sorry. For 30 years, Lee Junho had been a diplomat. For 30 years, he had stayed calm when aliens insulted him. He had smiled when they gave humans the worst jobs. He had said thank you when they gave humans nothing. But they had gone too far. Lee Junho stood up very slowly. His chair made a small sound as it moved. The room became quiet. Everyone was watching him. "Humanity withdraws from all galactic Cooperation Alliance activities," he said. His voice was calm and clear. "Effective immediately." The silence lasted for 3 seconds. Then the aliens exploded into laughter. "Where will you go?" asked the Zephyrian, his gas body shaking with laughter. "What will you do without us?" added Stoneface. "Who will protect you from the dangerous universe?" asked the Elderwood. Lee Junho looked at each alien face. He wanted to remember this moment. He wanted to remember how they looked when they laughed at humanity. "We'll remember this conversation," he said. Dr. Park Mi-jin closed her tablet. Admiral HFY picked up her hat. Captain Kim Dae-ho straightened his uniform. Engineer Cho Hyun-woo's hologram disappeared without saying goodbye. The 4 humans walked toward the door. Behind them, the aliens kept laughing. "Good luck surviving." "Without us," called Stoneface. "Don't forget to call if you need help," added the Nexari. "We'll keep your colonies safe," promised the collective. Lee Junho did not look back. He walked out of the room with his head high and his back straight. Dr. Park Mi-jin and the others followed him. In the hallway, Admiral HFY spoke quietly. "What now?" "Now we go home," said Lee Junho. "And we show them what humans can really do." Dr. Park Mi-jin smiled for the first time in months. "It's about time." Captain Kim Dae-ho was already talking into his communicator. "All human personnel, prepare for immediate departure. Operation Exodus is now active." As they walked to their ship, Lee Jun-ho could still hear alien laughter coming from the meeting room. Let them laugh, he thought. They would not be laughing much longer. The humans had been patient for 30 years. They had been polite and diplomatic and respectful. They had taken insults and unfair treatment because they wanted to be part of the galactic community. But the aliens did not want humans as partners. They wanted humans as servants. That was their mistake. Humans were done serving. 6 months had passed since the humans walked out of the council meeting. At first, the aliens had been happy. No more boring human requests. No more annoying human questions. No more humans asking for equal treatment. Stoneface was eating his metal breakfast when the first problem happened. His favorite quantum processors had stopped working. These were the small computers that made his weapons and tools run better. They came from human factories, but he had forgotten that. "Where are the new processors?" he asked his assistant. "The human factories are not answering our calls," said the assistant. "Then find different factories," Stoneface said. But there were no other factories. Only humans made quantum processors that worked well and cost little money. Other species made them too, but they were 10 times more expensive and broke often. The Nexari had their own problems. Their crystal cities needed special sound waves to stay strong. Without these sounds, the crystals would crack and break. The sound machines had been working perfectly for 20 years, but now they were making strange noises. "Call the maintenance team," ordered the Nexari leader. "The maintenance protocols were designed by humans," said her assistant. "We do not know how to fix them. Humans made these." The Nexari leader was surprised. She had never paid attention to who fixed her machines. "Yes, and the humans are not answering our messages." The Zephyrian gas colonies had a bigger problem. Their atmosphere processors were shutting down one by one. These machines kept the air breathable for visitors. Without them, only Zephyrians could visit the gas worlds. The collective found that their translation software was getting worse every day. The bugs could still talk to each other, but talking to other species was becoming harder. Words came out wrong. Meanings got mixed up. The Elderwoods research stations lost their data networks. All their scientific information was stored in computers that connected across many star systems. But the connections were failing. The deepers underwater. Cities lost their environmental controls. The water temperature was changing. The pressure was wrong. Fish were dying. Director Yoon Sun-mi sat in her office on Earth reading reports from around the galaxy. She was the head of Human Intelligence Services, and she knew things that other people did not know. "How many systems are affected?" asked Professor Nam Gitai. He was the man who had designed most of the technology that was now failing. "All of them," said Director Yoon Sun-mi. "Every major alien civilization is having problems. And they still do not understand why? They think it's just bad luck. Or maybe their enemies are attacking them. They do not realize that humans built most of their infrastructure." Professor Namgitai smiled. He was an old man with gray hair and kind eyes. But his smile was not kind today. 30 years of work. 30 years of making their lives easier. And they never even noticed. "Should we tell them?" asked Director Yoon Sun-mi. "Not yet. Let them figure it out themselves." The truth was that humans had been much more important than anyone realized. When humans first joined the galactic community, they had been eager to help. They wanted to prove that they belonged. So humans had fixed problems. They had designed better systems. They had created software that made everything work smoothly. They had been so quiet about it that the aliens forgot humans were doing it. Human engineers had built the translation programs that let different species talk to each other. Before humans, trade meetings took days because everyone spoke different languages badly. Human programmers had designed the computer networks that connected distant worlds. Information could travel across the galaxy in seconds instead of years. Human diplomats had stopped 3 trade wars before they started. They had done this so quietly that the other species never knew there had almost been wars. Human scientists had solved pollution problems on 12 different worlds. They had created new farming techniques that worked on alien planets. They had designed safety systems that kept millions of beings alive, and the aliens had never noticed. Admiral C.O.G. Hai, was overseeing Operation Exodus from her ship near Jupiter. This was the secret plan to remove all human technology and personnel from alien space. "Report," she said to Captain Kim Dae-ho. "All human citizens have been evacuated from alien territories," he said. "The Tau Ceti colonies disappeared during the night. No one was hurt. How did we move 2 million people without anyone noticing?" The day. Aliens were not watching. They never watch humans carefully. They think we are not important enough to watch. It was true. For 30 years, humans had been invisible. They had worked in the background, fixing things and making things better. The aliens had gotten so used to everything working perfectly that they forgot someone had to make it work. "What about our technology?" asked Admiral Seo Ji-hai. "All quantum. Processors have been remotely shut down," reported Captain Kim Dae-ho. "All human-designed software has been disabled. All human-built machines are going into lockdown mode. And the aliens still do not understand? They are starting to. The Vorthak sent a message asking about replacement processors. The Nixari want to hire human engineers, but we are not responding." Admiral Seo Ji-hai looked out at the stars. Somewhere out there, 7 alien species were slowly realizing that they had made a terrible mistake. "Any word from Ambassador Lee Junho?" she asked. "He is on Earth meeting with the World Council. They are discussing our next move." "And Professor Nam Gite's special project?" Captain Kim Dae-ho smiled. "Phase 1 is complete. We have successfully colonized 17 different galaxies. Our ships are already there, setting up new civilizations." Admiral Seo Ji-hai was impressed. While the aliens had been laughing at humans, humans had been busy. They had built new starships that could travel faster than anyone thought possible. They had found new worlds in distant galaxies. They had been preparing for this day for years. The aliens had thought humans were too primitive to be dangerous. They had thought humans were too weak to survive alone. They had thought humans needed the galactic community more than the galactic community needed humans. They had been wrong about everything. Back on Nexus Prime, the 7 alien species were having an emergency meeting. The great station was having power problems. The lights kept going out, the gravity was unstable. The air recycling systems were working badly. "What is happening?" demanded Stoneface. "We are investigating," said the Nexari leader. But her voice was worried. "Could this be connected to the humans leaving?" asked the Elderwood. "Impossible," said the Zephyrian. "Humans are too primitive to cause this much damage." But deep down, they were all starting to wonder. The problems had started exactly when the humans left. The failures were happening to systems that had worked perfectly for decades. Maybe, just maybe, they had underestimated humanity. And maybe that was the biggest mistake they had ever made. 2 years had passed since humans disappeared from galactic space. The problems had grown from small annoyances to major disasters. Regent Kolthazar was the new Vorthak military leader. He was smaller than Stoneface, but much smarter. He stood in his command center, looking at reports that made no sense. "Explain this to me again," he said to his science officer. "The Kepler Nebula mining operation has completely failed," said the officer. "All the mining machines have stopped working." "Stopped working how?" "They just turned off. The AI systems went into sleep mode and will not wake up. The safety protocols activated and locked out all the controls." Regent Kolthazar looked at the numbers. The Vorthak had spent enormous amounts of money on the Kepler operation. They had expected to make 10 times that money back. Instead, they had lost everything. "Who designed these AI systems?" he asked. The science officer looked uncomfortable. "We are still investigating, but..." "But what?" "The code signatures suggest human origin, from about 15 years ago." Regent Kolthazar felt something cold in his stomach. "Humans designed our mining AI?" "It appears so. They were working as contractors for many companies. Very quiet, very efficient. No one paid much attention to who was writing the software." On the crystal world of Nexari Prime, Ambassador Vel Nexus was having her own crisis. Half of her cities were cracking. The harmonic stabilizers that kept the crystal structures strong were failing one by one. "Can we fix them?" she asked her. Best engineers. We have tried everything, said the chief engineer. The stabilizers use a frequency pattern that we do not understand. It is too complex for our technology. Who created this pattern? The original files are marked with human company names, but those companies no longer exist. The humans shut them down when they left. Ambassador Vel Nexus had never felt fear before. Nexari were made of living crystal and did not experience emotions the same way other species did. But now she felt something that might have been panic. What happens if we cannot fix them? She asked. Our cities will collapse within 1 year, said the engineer. In the gas clouds of Zephyria, entire colonies were being evacuated. The atmospheric processors that made their worlds livable for other species had failed completely. Worse, some Zephyrian colonies were becoming unlivable even for Zephyrians. The collective was falling apart in a different way. Their hive mind worked by sharing thoughts instantly across great distances, but the quantum communication networks were failing. Bug groups on distant worlds were becoming isolated. The collective consciousness was breaking into pieces. The Elderwood were losing their memory banks. For millions of years, they had stored their history in vast computer networks that connected their entire species. But these networks were shutting down. Entire chapters of Elderwood history were disappearing forever. The Deepers faced the worst crisis of all. Their underwater cities depended on precise environmental controls. Temperature, pressure, chemical balance. Everything had to be perfect. But the control systems were failing randomly. 3 cities had already been abandoned. 2 others were in emergency lockdown. Regent Kolthazar called for an emergency council meeting. The 7 species gathered on Nexus Prime, but the station itself was barely working. Emergency lights flickered. The gravity kept changing. The air smelled wrong. We need to talk about the humans, said Regent Kolthazar. What about them? Asked Ambassador Vel Nexus. Her crystal body was showing stress fractures. I think they did this to us. The room went quiet. Then the Zephyrian delegate started laughing. Humans? Primitive humans caused all this? Look at the evidence, said Regent Kolthazar. Every failing system has human code in it. Every broken machine was designed by human engineers. Every critical network was built by human programmers. That is impossible, said the deeper representative. We would have noticed if humans were building our infrastructure. Would we? Asked Regent Kolthazar. When was the last time any of you paid attention to who was doing maintenance on your systems? The aliens looked at each other. None of them could remember. Infrastructure was boring. They had important things to think about, like politics and war and trade. They hired other people to worry about keeping the lights on. The evidence is clear, continued Regent Kolthazar. For 30 years, humans have been quietly building and maintaining our technology. When they left, everything they built started to fail. But how? Asked the Elderwood Ancient. Humans are so primitive. How could they build better technology than us? Ambassador Vel Nexus spoke slowly. Maybe they are not as primitive as we thought. The idea was frightening. For decades, the 7 species had treated humans like children. They had assumed humans were thousands of years behind them in technology and culture. But what if they had been wrong? We need to contact them, said the Deeper. We have tried, said the Zephyrian. They do not answer our messages. We need to try harder, said Ambassador Vel Nexus. Regent Kolthazar had been working on this problem for months. He had the best communication equipment in the galaxy. His scientists had been sending messages to every known human colony and outpost. I have been trying to contact them for 6 months, he said. We cannot find them. What do you mean? Asked the collective. I mean they are gone. All human colonies have been abandoned. All human ships have disappeared. It is like they never existed. This was not entirely true. Regent Kolthazar's deep space sensors had detected something strange. There were energy signatures in distant parts of the galaxy that looked like human technology, but they were so far away that it would take years to reach them. And the signatures suggested that human technology was far more advanced than anyone had imagined. They cannot just disappear, said the Elderwood Ancient. They can if they want to, said Regent Koltazar. And apparently, they did want to. The aliens sat in silence. Around them, Nexus Prime continued to fall apart. The great station had been the symbol of galactic cooperation for 200 years. Now it was dying because the humans who had maintained it were gone. "What do we do?" asked the Zephyrian. "We fix our own systems," said Ambassador Velnexus. "How long will that take?" asked the Deeper. "Decades, maybe centuries, if we can do it at all." "And how much will it cost?" asked the collective. Ambassador Velnexus was quiet for a long moment. "Everything," she said finally. The 7 species were learning a hard lesson. For 30 years they had taken human help for granted. They had assumed that humans needed the galactic community more than the galactic community needed humans. They had been completely wrong. Humans had not just been part of galactic civilization. They had been holding it together. And now that they were gone, everything was falling apart. Regent Koltazar looked around the failing station. "We need to find them," he said, "before it is too late." But in his heart he was afraid it was already too late. The humans had vanished completely. They had taken their knowledge, their technology, and their skills with them, and they had left the 7 proudest species in the galaxy to face the consequences of their arrogance. The council that had once mocked humanity was now desperate to find them. But the humans were gone, and they had left no trace of where they had gone. The galaxy had never felt so empty. 5 years had passed since the humans walked away. Galactic civilization was dying. The Vorthak Consortium had lost half of their military ships to system failures. Regent Kolthazar now ruled over an empire that was slowly forgetting how to build new technology. His people were fighting with weapons from 50 years ago. The Nexari crystal cities lay in ruins. Ambassador Velnexus lived in a small shelter made from broken crystal pieces. Her beautiful singing voice was now harsh and cracked. Most of her people had fled to other worlds. The Zephyrian gas colonies had been abandoned. Their atmospheric processors had failed completely, making their worlds unlivable. The surviving Zephyrians now lived on ships that wandered between stars. The collective was no longer collective. Their communication networks had collapsed, splitting the hive mind into thousands of separate groups. Many of these groups had started fighting each other. The Elderwood had lost most of their ancient memories. Without their computer networks, millions of years of history had been erased. The tree people now lived like their ancestors, isolated and confused. The Deepers had retreated to their deepest oceans. Their cities were dark and cold. Many of their people had died when the life support systems failed. Nexus Prime was a tomb. The great station had been abandoned 2 years ago when the last life support system finally broke down. It now drifted in space, dark and silent. On this dead station, something impossible happened. A message arrived. The message was simple. Emergency. Council session. Nexus Prime tomorrow. It was signed with the seal of the Galactic Cooperation Alliance, but that alliance had not existed for 3 years. Despite everything, representatives from all 7 species came. They arrived in old ships that barely worked. They wore emergency suits because the station had no atmosphere. They met in the same room where they had once laughed at humanity. The room was dark except for a few emergency lights. The great table was covered with dust. The alien delegates looked like ghosts in their life support suits. Then the lights came on. The room filled with clean air. The gravity stabilized. The temperature became comfortable. It was like the station had suddenly come back to life. A hologram appeared above the table. It was a human in a military uniform. The aliens recognized him immediately. It was Admiral Park Tae-jin, Admiral Seo Ji-hai's replacement. "Greetings," said the Admiral. His voice was calm and polite. "Thank you for coming." Regent Kolthazar tried to speak, but Admiral Park held up his hand. "Please let me speak first. We know what has happened to your civilizations over the past 5 years. We know about the system failures, the collapsed cities, the lost technologies. We know because we caused all of it." The aliens looked at each other in shock. They had suspected this, but hearing it confirmed was still frightening. "You caused this?" whispered Ambassador Velnexus. "Yes. When humans were dismissed from the galactic community, we removed all human-built technology. This included the systems that kept your civilizations running. Another hologram appeared. This was Dr. Kang Yunseo, a woman the aliens had never seen before. She was older, with gray hair and kind eyes that looked very serious. "My name is Dr. Kang Yunseo," she said. "I am a xenoarchaeologist. I study dead civilizations, and I have discovered something important about humanity's role in the galaxy." Images appeared in the air above the table. They showed ruins of ancient cities and dead space stations. They showed the remains of civilizations that had once ruled the stars. "In the past 10 million years, this galaxy has seen 4 great interstellar civilizations," said Dr. Kang. "All of them collapsed. All of them fell into darkness and chaos. Do you know why? The aliens were silent. Each civilization was destroyed when they drove away their bridge builder species like humanity." "Bridge builders?" asked the Elderwood Ancient. "Very rarely. Evolution produces a species that specializes in connecting and stabilizing complex systems. They are not the strongest or the smartest or the most advanced, but they have a unique ability to make different groups work together." Dr. Kang showed more images. The first great civilization drove away the harmonizers 60 million years ago. Within a century, their empire collapsed into civil war. The second civilization exiled the synthesizers 23 million years ago. Their technology failed, and their worlds became uninhabitable. The aliens were beginning to understand. The third civilization destroyed the unifiers 8 million years ago. They thought the unifiers were too primitive to be useful. Sound familiar? Regent Kolthazar felt sick. "You are saying that humans are bridge builders?" "Humans evolved on a world with dozens of different intelligent species," explained Dr. Kang. "Humans, wolves, dolphins, elephants, whales, apes, all working together in complex relationships. This taught humans how to connect different groups and make them stronger together." Admiral Park stepped forward. "For 30 years, humans tried to be part of your galactic community. We solved your problems quietly. We built systems that made your civilizations work better. We prevented conflicts before they could start wars. And you repaid us by treating us like children," said Dr. Kang. "You mocked our technology, dismissed our ideas, and finally tried to take control of our people. So you left," said Ambassador Vel Nexus, "and let us destroy ourselves." "We gave you a choice," said Admiral Park. "Work with us as equals or work without us entirely. You chose to work without us." The aliens looked at each other. They were remembering the council meeting 5 years ago. They were remembering how they had laughed when humans walked away. "What do you want from us now?" asked the Zephyrian delegate. "The same thing we wanted 5 years ago," said Admiral Park. "Partnership, equality, respect." "And if we refuse?" asked the collective. Admiral Park was quiet for a moment. "Then we will leave this galaxy entirely. We have already established colonies in 17 other galaxies. We do not need you, but you need us." "You would abandon an entire galaxy?" asked the Elderwood Ancient. "We would leave you to face the same fate as the previous civilizations," said Dr. Kang. "Collapse, chaos, and darkness. It is your choice." The truth was devastating. Humans were not dependent on the galactic community. The galactic community was dependent on humans. Without human bridge builders, the 7 species would slowly destroy each other through conflict and system failures. Regent Kolthazar stood up slowly. "What are your terms?" "Full membership in a new galactic council," said Admiral Park. "Equal votes for all species, equal representation in all institutions, and a formal apology for the treatment humanity received." "And in return?" asked Ambassador Vel Nexus. "We will rebuild your civilizations. We will restore your technologies. We will prevent the wars that are already starting between your species. We will be what we have always been, the builders of bridges between worlds." The aliens talked quietly among themselves, but they all knew there was really no choice. Their civilizations were dying. Their people were suffering. They needed human help to survive. We accept, said Regent Kolthazar finally. The other species agreed one by one. Even the proud Elderwood Ancient bent his tree-like head in acceptance. Admiral Park smiled. Then welcome to the new galactic partnership. The lights in the room grew brighter. Fresh air filled the station. Nexus Prime was coming back to life. 6 months later, Ambassador Lee Jun-ho returned to Nexus Prime. But this time, he came as the first Secretary General of the Galactic Partnership. He was older now, with gray hair and new lines around his eyes, but he walked with dignity and strength. The meeting room had been rebuilt. There were still 7 chairs for the alien species, but now there was an 8th chair for humanity. It was not the smallest chair anymore. This council is now in session, said Lee Jun-ho. Our first order of business is the reconstruction of the Nexari crystal cities. Around the table, 7 alien delegates listened respectfully. They no longer laughed at human ideas. They no longer dismissed human technology. They had learned what happened when they treated humans as servants instead of partners. The galaxy had been given a second chance. This time, they would not waste it. Lee Jun-ho looked around the table at the faces that had once mocked him. Humanity accepts your partnership, he said. This time, we begin as equals. The council voted unanimously to approve the reconstruction project. It was a new beginning for the galaxy, and this time the bridge builders would be respected for what they truly were, the species that held civilization together.